What's going on, folks? This is another video of my labbing experience on the INE workbook. Um, I just want to go ahead and put this out there too. I do not work for INE in any way, shape, or form. This is just me performing their workbook, so hopefully I don't get in any kind of trouble by doing this. But I'm kind of doing this because you guys have the best products out there, and to demonstrate how you're working through the labs, and different people have different methods. So this is just me expressing my way of how I work through and do my configurations and do my troubleshooting for anybody who out there who's has any aspirations of going for their MPLS, their CCIE service provider. So let's get started. So in this particular lesson, I will be working on doing L3 VPNs with backdoor links, but then also it's going to be actually focusing on OSPF sham links in regards to backdoor links on the L3 VPN circuits. Now, if you don't know what sham links are, a sham link is essentially like a virtual link, but without the caveat that the tunnel has to go through a backbone area, which would be area zero. What a sham link does in the purpose of L3 VPN is let's go ahead and just walk you through the quick scenario before I go through the configuration, but so you guys can understand, and I'll show you and also in detail of what I'm talking about, how this all works. So and this part of the network, this is your customer network. That's your provider network, sorry. So this is your actual L3 VPN network, where your edge, your PE devices sit, as well as the core routers. So right now you have, well, actually this will be your edge network. Oh, I can't get my cursor to work. Anyway, so router 2 and XR1 are your PEs in this particular situation. And R3, 6, 4, and 5 are your provider core routers. Now, what the sham links allow is that, like how we have between R1 and XR2, it helps influence or manipulate the routing decision for between your OSPF protocol. Now, as we all know, there's a hierarchical design when it comes to OSPF and also in route decisions. So, by default, intra-area routes trump inter-area routes, which trumps external routes. And that depends on the LSA that's being received by that particular device and how they process which is the next hop that's going to be taken. So, uh, with L3 VPNs, with you doing OSPF as the PE to CE routing protocol, which is between R2 and R1 and XR2 and XR1, what you're essentially doing is you're saying, hey, I want to be able to peer all of my edge devices using OSPF. Now, the problem with that is that you already have an OSPF network going on behind this, all of this, before this WAN connection came in. So particularly this connection here, gig 1.120, and this connection here has OSPF enabled. Now, because all these are saved would be in area 0, all those routes would be intra-area routes. So anytime I need to talk to router 1, by default, if I was to peer with router 2, the routes that are coming from the MPLS core would be looking like they would be external routes, because BGP on the R2 between RS OSPF, the VRF aware OSPF, and the BGP process that's running, you got to do redistribution from the routes that are learned from XR1. So from router 1's perspective, he'll be actually receiving external routes. Now, uh, due to best path selection, if I want to use the L3 circuit that I'm paying for from my service provider, in order for me to do that, I would have to figure out a way to extend the flooding domain of OSPF, which would be to able to process type 1 LSAs coming over the L3 VPN. Um, Now, with the sham links, so there's a couple other pieces, right? Because you can actually process type 3, depending type 5, type 3, and type 1. Your type 1 LSAs are going to be happening with the sham link, so it'll look like it'll be intra-area routes coming from the MPLS VPN core. And then by default, if you use the same OSPF process ID on the PEs, that is what's gonna generate the domain ID, which is a flag in the VPN v4 update for the OSPF routes. When you do the redistribution, that automatically gets written into that packet that goes from PE to PE. So when XR1 receives XR2, well, XR1 receives XR2's update via OSPF, you have a redistributed can that says redistribute the VRF aware OSPF into BGP. When that happens, the domain tag gets generated based off of the OSPF process ID. Now, that goes and sends through the core via the VPN v4 session to R2. R2 receives that update. He's going to look at that tag, and if it matches the domain ID that is on his connected interface that's on his process going to R1, it's going to send those routes as type 3 intra-area routes. Inter-area routes, sorry. Now, that still doesn't solve our problem on the backdoor links, because what's going to happen is R2 is going to receive that, he's going to send it here, but R1 is still going to use this link here to get the XR2 due to the OSPF path selection process. Now, what needs to happen in order to circumvent that is where the sham links come in. So essentially on the sham links, what you're doing, I know I'm going to be using a highlighter. I cannot wait to my, I bought a one of those pen pad things, so it'd be a lot easier to do these demonstrations. But R2 and R1, you see, it's not gonna work like that anyway. But anyway, R2 and R1 is gonna have a VPN, well, a virtual link in a sense. That's what a sham link essentially is. But then what's nice about that is that, say that you're not using area 0 here, you're using area 1 or area 5 or whatever, area 12 between R1 and R2, you can build a sham link that's built within that area. And I'll show you guys how to configure that on the PEs. Well, when we go through the steps, it's going to be part of the process. So wanted to go through a quick introduction before we start, but that's going to be the basis of what you got to do to get L3 VPN established. So this is the topology we're going to be working with. I already preloaded all the pre-configured, all the configs that INE told you to dump on the routers. So we're going to go ahead and start working through the task here. So next video we'll go ahead and begin that process.